The D7200 is Nikon's top crop. It's pro-sized with classic DSLR styling, a large grip that demands a firm hand. From the Nikon logo in front to the info panel on top, it says, "I'm serious about photography," and it expects the same from you.
You can't help but be pleased with the images. In full auto, which is a powerful manager of all settings, you can concentrate on composition and relax knowing it's covering the technical details. And of course, full manual controls with good assists available for those whose creativity demands more than the standard results. Video functionality doesn't quite live up to still mode, more in a minute. The viewfinder is optical and inline. It is an SLR after all. Had to turn the diopter all the way to suit my prescription. Non-articulated LCD, loaded with controls and dials. Dual SD card slots with useful options, lots of connectors, audio, video, remote control, Wi-Fi and NFC. The 390-page manual is complete and detailed. The review kit included an 18-140 lens. The kit includes an external battery charger. Camera and lens weigh over a kilo. It's substantial. Get a padded strap. Working from RAW files, I found I needed fewer than usual adjustments in Lightroom to make images sparkle and pop. There's better than average control of bright exposures and good blue skies, but reds can be oversaturated. Front and back dials for shutter and aperture, but no dial for ISO or EV adjustments. There are dedicated buttons to adjust white balance, quality, ISO, and to open a context-sensitive menu to adjust current settings. The 10-position mode dial has a lock button to prevent accidental resets, with the drive mode collar underneath. Green auto mode manages exposure including ISO, focus, and flash, which pops up as needed. In other modes, press the flash button to activate it. I was very happy with the daylight fill flash. Clockwise one-click switches to program mode if you want to change the exposure value or try other aperture shutter combinations. Counterclockwise to the auto but no flash please mode, and a scene mode with 16 selections displayed on the LCD screen. This isn't as automated as some, for example, sports mode doesn't activate burst. The image in the viewfinder is clear and bright, the advantage of optical, but the setting display underneath is primitive and cryptic like LCDs from the 80s. Once you've decoded it, from the left focus confirm, shutter, aperture, ISO, and the number of shots available on the card or in the buffer, it's workable. Although it means moving your eye from the viewfinder, there's more status information on the info panel. Battery life, number of pictures left on the card. Press Live View, or mirrorless mode, to compose and shoot using the LCD. I remove my glasses for the viewfinder, but need them for the LCD.
If you don't have your eye on the viewfinder, Nikon provides a cap to prevent light leaks. Oh, other pocket. So slip the eye cup off and the little cover on. Now, wouldn't it be good if the little clip fit in the flash shoe?
Program, aperture, shutter, and manual modes work as expected. It's very handy having front and rear dials to set aperture and shutter while composing. They're nicely positioned to use with my eye on the viewfinder, moving only my index finger to the shutter release. Picture controls provide 7 presets, which make adjustments applied to JPEG images. Check and change the setting for a full suite of controls, make adjustments individually and globally using Quick Adjust. Use Manage Picture Controls to create 9 custom presets, named using an on-screen keyboard. There are 6 white balances, used only in PASNM modes. In addition to the presets, 6 custom white balances can be saved. Set white balance using Live View. Point at a white card in the appropriate lighting, which displays a target spot. Press the white balance button, use the front and rear dials to select Pre and a free slot. Press white balance until Pre starts to flash, then OK. You can't delete, but you can overwrite, unless they're protected. There's an auto manual focus switch on the body and on the lens. Leave it set to A. Press the button on the focus switch and rotate the rear dial to select single or continuous, AFF. In viewfinder mode, where continuous is AFC, bottom left, you can additionally select Auto FA, which switches if it detects subject movement. In viewfinder mode, press the focus switch and turn the front dial to access single point and 9, 21, or 51 point dynamic area. 9 for predictable movement, 21 for unpredictable movement, and 51 for objects that aren't always in frame. Use the same technique in live view on the LCD for object tracking, face detection, wide or normal. Use the control dial to move the focus spot, switch the dial to L to lock it. I found it slightly awkward, but after I mastered the technique, it's very fast and done without moving my eye from the viewfinder. Focus is accurate, but not particularly fast. You can customize the AEL button to back focus, AF on, and remove the focus from the shutter. This enables focus once and shoot continuously without worrying that a slight change in composition will refocus. In manual focus, hold the shutter button for a viewfinder display to indicate whether you're in front of or behind the subject. Watch the arrows on either side of the focus confirm dot in the bottom left corner, a useful feature. In live view mode, use expanded view to check manual focus. Press the magnify button to zoom to the level of detail needed, then the demagnify button to back out. The inset shows how much you've zoomed in. There's no quick way out of expanded view, and it doesn't work while you're recording video. These differences between functions in viewfinder and live view modes may seem familiar to some, but if you're coming from an older DSLR or other style camera, the differences are slightly puzzling. Let me show you what I mean. Access effects from the mode dial, then use the rear dial to select an effect. Choose from night vision, color sketch, which looks like fun. But when I turn on live view and press OK set, options appear to adjust vividness and outlines. These are not available in the viewfinder. I enjoyed playing with color sketch, and I found that bringing the black levels down in Lightroom really improved these images. Other effects include miniature and selective color, quite different from other cameras. Follow the on-screen prompt to select up to 3 colors and set the intensity using the control wheel and rear dial. There's also silhouette, high key, and low key. 4 of these effects are saved only in JPEG files, even when RAW Plus is selected. For the remainder, you'll have both a clean RAW file and an affected JPEG. Nice. Nearly forgot. Quality includes RAW, RAW Plus, and JPEG. 3 JPEG quality settings, 3 sizes, 24 megapixel, 13 megapixel, and 6 megapixels, and image area. DX uses the full sensor, 1.3 adds a crop. There's also a JPEG compression setting. Please set this at the optimal quality and never go back. Same with raw bit depth, leave it at 14-bit. Using DX, 14-bit large RAW produces a 24 megapixel 32 meg file. JPEG reduces file size to 17 megs. RAW and JPEG are roughly equivalent in quality, but you'd lose the flexibility of manipulating in post. Smaller sizes and lower quality settings result in lower quality images. You bought a D7200. Buy a big enough memory card so you can take advantage of it. They're cheap. And don't compromise quality for file size, ever. Shoot in DX, RAW, or RAW Plus fine, period. The advantage of shooting RAW Plus, particularly if you're using picture control settings, is that the RAW file is clean, while the JPEG has the setting applied. In addition to the standard ISO settings, press the ISO button and use the rear dial from 100 to 25.6K. There are 2 black and white H1 and H2 settings, these photos taken with a single candle. The front dial turns the auto ISO on. Set the maximum ISO and the minimum shutter speed to engage auto. Nice. In a fairly dark room, grain starts to be visible at 6400, but even at 25.6, the nature of the grain makes it fairly inconspicuous. And I would typically avoid anything over 6400, but when needed, 25.6 works for me. Even better in daylight, where it's barely noticeable. Extend the dynamic range using active D-lighting, off, auto, or 4 settings from low to extra high. Relatively minor differences. For a more exaggerated and dramatic effect, try HDR. You can select the setting for a single shot, which switches back to normal, or series, which retains the setting for multiple images. Auto and 4 settings, which increase in effect from realistic to exaggerated based on the dynamic range of the scene. We'll get to bracket for DIY HDR in a minute. There are 6 drive modes on the collar, although 2, quiet and mirror up, are not like the others. Push this little button, then turn the dial. Hard to do with one hand, particularly my left. Single exposure, low but really adjustable burst, and high. You can set adjustable from 1 to 6 frames per second. high is 6 frames. I thought focus tracking in live view would be best for this burst series, but then I tried Viewfinder, Autofocus Continuous, and 51 point, which worked better, keeping Kim in focus as she approached. And anyway, I find it easier to pan using the Viewfinder. The selfie timer mode on the collar is pretty basic. It takes a single photo after 10 seconds. Before I get to mirror up and quiet, let's have a look inside. I've set the shutter to 1 second to slow down the action. Oh, and here's an instant replay. When I release the shutter, the mirror flips up, the front shutter opens, 1 second later the back shutter closes, and then the mirror returns. Each makes some sounds, and each action causes some small measure of vibration within the body, slightly different in live view. Quiet mode, note that it's not called silent mode, doesn't flip the mirror down until you release the shutter button. This cuts the noise by 25%. In mirror up mode, the first shutter press sets the mirror up, the second releases the front and then back shutter and returns the mirror. This eliminates some vibration that might be caused when the mirror flips up that might be evident on some images at some shutter speeds. Interestingly, bracket, accessed with this dedicated button, is not a drive mode. You can bracket exposure, white balance, flash, and active delighting. There is an entire custom panel devoted to bracket settings. Set the exposure difference and then the number of shots, which is limited based on exposure. For example, 9 shots are available with 1/3, only 5 at 2 and above. Same controls, different display in live view. 2 more drive modes in the menus. Multi-exposure, combining 2 or 3 shots, with exposure control for added flexibility, and interval timer, which takes stills, lots of settings, high maximum for interval and number of photos. The movie menu has a similar function called time-lapse, which records the still images into a video file. Set the interval and the total length of the finished movie. One more thing. Oh, sorry, there is no panorama mode. The Nikkor DX, that means cropped, 18:140 or 27:210 is equivalent to 35mm. It ramps from f3.5 wide to f5.6 zoomed in, closes to f22 wide to f36 zoomed in, 67mm filter diameter. Big grip ring for zoom that I found slightly stiff, hard to start to zoom smoothly while shooting video, smaller focus ring. Fully zoomed, it's possible to create a pleasant bokeh. I was very pleased with the shallow depth of field in this f6.3 image of King Willem-Alexander. He's in sharp focus while his entourage in front and behind are soft. While it's not really a hard stop, the focus ring has a defined focus travel of about 1/3 turn, making it possible to set and return to a specific focus point accurately and repeatably. It's impossible to do a rack focus in video without this. Kudos to Nikon. And although closest focus distance is relatively long, 45 centimeters, it is available throughout the zoom. Love that. Very useful and usable lens. Note that there's no hood included in the kit. It's a VR lens providing optical stabilization. It engages with focus and provides a clearly steadier image. It's great in shooting handheld in live view where it's much harder to hold the camera steady. When shooting video with a tripod, turn it off, there's a switch on the lens, to stop it jumping as you pan or tilt. The menus are clear and well organized. I particularly like the subcategories on the customization pages. And every section has its own reset. Still and movie settings are independent. You can create a custom menu. There's a single generic error message, which doesn't explain why I can't access the HDR feature. But there is a help button. Not helpful in this case. But if this happens to you, HDR doesn't work when RAW is on. I actually don't understand this. There are other situations like the effect filters where when you select a RAW compatible effect, it just saves the JPEG instead. Why not just do that? The second card slot can be configured as overflow, dual record, or one card records RAW while the other saves JPEGs. Note that this is a photo setting and doesn't apply to video, which records on card 1 only. Movie mode has several compromises. There's 1080p 60, but only in 1.3 mode. 1080p 30 is the maximum in DX. There are 2 quality settings, high and normal. In high, 60p is limited to 10 minutes per segment. 30p to 20, I find that limiting. Normal is 20 and 30 respectively. That's all a bit less than you'd expect here. Here's high and normal side by side. Video is recorded in H.264 in an MOV wrapper. There's no movie mode. The video record button works in any mode. It's easy to find, and I never once pressed it accidentally. Rotate the live view dial to movie. If you're shooting in A or M mode, you must set the aperture before pressing the live view mode button. Only the LCD is available in live view. There's no elapsed time, just remaining time displayed. You do the math. While shooting, the ISO and shutter can be adjusted. Press the I button to adjust mic sensitivity. Aperture can't be changed while recording. Back focus is not available in movie mode, so it's full manual or auto by soft pressing the shutter. Expanded view doesn't work while recording. There's neither zebra to check exposure or peaking to check focus. The highlight display option looks like zebra, but the activating level isn't specified and can't be set. Shutter speeds 1/25th to 1/8000th. A few slower speeds might be nice for special effects. Here's a place where you might use that 1.3 mode. Video's 2 megapixel resolution won't be affected, and it gives you a little more zoom range. There's no integrated ND filter, which is unfortunate in a camera that's otherwise a capable video performer. When you're shooting at 1/60th shutter, you nearly always want ND. HDMI out, with and without data display, although the signal is interrupted when settings are adjusted. Photos can be taken in movie mode even while recording. Press the shutter and the video stops and the photo is taken with a 16:9 aspect. Color profiles and effects like Color Sketch are available in video mode. I was pleased with the better than average quality of the internal mics. There's an audio in and headphone out port. On-screen meters and level control adjustments. You can also set the frequency range. I assume that's a high pass and low pass filter in low mode. Excellent battery life, even if you're using live mode and shooting video. I found NFC connections to be a little flaky. Maybe it's my phone. The ad hoc Wi-Fi works well. There's a remote shooting app, which seems to be full auto, touch to focus, then touch the shutter to snap and transfer. No other options or control features. In portrait orientation, the settings are displayed but can't be changed. You can view all of the images on the card in slot 1, although it takes a few minutes to transfer all of the thumbnails. You can send one or multiple photos from the Cameras menu. To transfer an image from card 2, pull card 1 or swap cards. There's no ability to record or transfer movies. And Wi-Fi is not compatible with HDMI out. An extensive retouch menu manipulates photos already taken. Like black and white, I'll save the changes to a new file. Apply filter effects, including color sketch and selective color, create multi-exposures, modify the perspective, or create a fisheye effect.
Bottom line, the worst camera is one you've left behind because it's too big and heavy. So if you can get past that, the D7200 is an excellent camera, capable of creating great stills and good video. To improve on this, you'd have to look at a full-frame model.